I wanted to get to the technical part of the
Yeah.
of things because like I'm pretty sure like you're the very few people live there that speak very good English, and
Sure.
that's why I'm very fortunate to have you here so you can really explain things.
Yeah.
Um, like for example, that video of the sweeps, it
Yeah.
got so much attention. People like till last night, I was still getting comments, get him on, and
Yes.
it's been like a couple of weeks already.
Yeah.
Um, and if you haven't, how do I explain this? If you haven't pointed things out to me, uh, I wouldn't have saw this particular difference when I was looking at the choho and the sasai.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's completely different. You have sasai where you have like this big lift and pull, and then you move to the side, and then you block him, so you let him roll over,
Yes.
which is basically the kuzushi tsukuri kake philosophy. But then I looked at the choho. He just like snapped him down and kicked him on the below, which
Yes.
is like completely different.
Yeah.
So my first question is, before we get to the difference between mainland and Inner Mongolia, like
Yeah.
the wear and the rules, all that, that's for later. But the for judo, I'm asking this because I'm a judoka. I'm asking like the main approach to takedowns in judo is kuzushi, which is unbalancing,
Yeah.
tsukuri, positioning, kake, it's execution, and also, of course, you have to create particular reactions in order to get to the throw, or which is like combinations or feints, etc. Obviously, that's all good. So not just the sweeps, but in general, like the hip tosses, the shoulder throws in Mongolia. What's the philosophy or the approach to it that differs from judo?
So, you know, um, there's a lot of similarities, and not just even with judo. There's a lot of similarities with many things, right? But there's a, there's a couple things people have to remember that really change the game, and a few of those are that there is no time limit, there is no weight division, so it's open. Uh, there is no like mat, right? You're not on a mat. So when you have those few things, also there's no like ranking. There's no separation of like you're this rank, you're that rank, you compete as a black belt. None of that. So when you have that, the mentality changes dramatically, and the execution has to change, right? Because also you touch the ground with anything but your feet for in a Mongolian style, right? Well, you lose when you
On the
understand
ground, it's over.
it's over. So in outer Mongolia, in Mongolia, the country, you can put your hands on the ground, right? Your hands and your feet, nothing else. But here, just your feet. And when you think about that, people think like, oh, yeah, I can do that. It's a lot harder than you think, especially when you're used to, oh, shit, I'm going to fall. Put one hand down, maybe I bail out, do like a little cartwheel. You can't do that. So also, the jackets are so much tighter. You know, the jackets are thick and hard. Like, I mean, my fingers are pretty broken up, and this is a good day. So what I'm trying to say is when you compare that to judo, it just changes the entire mentality. So a key element, a key point in Mongolian Bokh and Mongol Bokh is that you have to be very patient. It's not a fast game. You have to be it's about endurance, not necessarily like cardio, but endurance mentally and like your grip strength. Because you might hold on to a guy that outweighs you by 50 kilos and you might have to hold on for an hour. Like I've done matches where I had, you go pretty much back to back almost. So I went against a guy who was like 30 minutes. The next guy was like 40 minutes. The next guy was 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And you don't realize how, man, you get tired. And when you're outside and the wind is blowing, there's sandstorms, like all types of things happening, it changes everything. Like there's sand in your eyes. You're like, oh shit, I can't really see. I just stepped in a hole. My foot's kind of stuck, but I don't want him to know that, right? My dog, hey baby boy. So when you're talking about technical stuff in Mongolian wrestling, because of the way the jackets are and the way that the rule set, you have to grab a lot tighter, almost like you're grabbing in a way for nogi, right? For no jacket. But you hold on to that. You hold on to the jacket, and you can't. There is no slack. There's no slack in it, right? So you have to. You can't really pull hard. You can't pull and have kind of a lot of space. Like, even the way you tear, right? So even the way you break grips. Like for instance, in Chinese wrestling, if someone has your lapel, right, you would pull back, okay, right? You can even grab your own and pop. It's one way. But in Mongolian wrestling, you can't do that because you expose yourself and you make yourself long. And if they have your jacket, it's a done deal. So everything is about getting closer and then popping little micro movements, just something like this, something like you can't really see, but just like that. It plays a big factor. So now you go into the techniques with this. You know, with judo, I feel like, again, because of the rule set, you have to do so much extra movements. No one cares if they fall on the ground. And it's, how can I say it? For a judoka to compete in Bokh can be difficult, because they won't be used to the distance. For Bokh players to compete in judo can be difficult because they're not used to that distance, that space, right? But an element, I know I'm kind of mixing things together. I'm just telling you a lot of stuff. One element that Bokh players have, that the reason why they're so successful, they're so successful in other grappling arts is because they grab you very tightly and they hold you like they would hold you in Bokh, right? And I think that they learn how to kind of use what they have in other styles. But
excuse me 1 second.
So, like, for instance, let's talk about like Kosotogari, right? And we're talking about judo, oglo in Mongolian. It looks the same to someone, oglo. O-G-L-O-O, yes, oglo. So it looks the same until you actually do it, and especially when you wear the jackets and you're like, well, it feels nothing the same. It almost feels like a different language, right? Because when you're doing Mongolian wrestling, a lot of the pressure is constantly going down, right? You're constantly dragging a person, pulling them down and holding them into that position. You don't really pull up too much, right? And if you do pull up, you pull them up when you're very close to them, like chest to chest or like hip to hip. Then you lift like this, right? But you almost like you're doing high pulls in the gym or something like that, or cleans, a lot of that kind of motion. But you're not actually, a lot of the motions are constantly
distance where I like this.
Yes, so
none of that.
None of that. You can't do that. Now,
yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of judokas, like a lot of the Mongols that are like, were judokas and trained, like they were on the national team and then they retired and just stick with Bokh. They will kind of add some elements, especially some of the bigger judo techniques. Like they'll try it, but it is risky, right? You don't see it often because if you mess up and you fall, it's like you just kind of fucked yourself, right? Yeah, but you don't really see some of these. Go ahead. Yeah, you don't really see some of these big movements with the band. It's almost kind of pointless to train them. There are certain movements, but the gripping is going to be a lot different, right? So like you will see big lifts like this because from that sleeve, right? You will see the motion, but for instance, like choho and a couple of the sweeps, but you don't lean so much because you don't want to risk falling. So a lot of it is almost like you're very straight and your foot sticks out and you got to learn how to rotate them over that foot. Similar concept. Man, I've been trying to learn how to explain this for a long time.
Can I explain what I think I understood? So in judo, you have these kuzushi. First of all, you have the slack, you have the distance. That will really provide a little bit of like monumental type of unbalancing, like a really big. While in Bokh, first of all, the thick jacket, the distance, which is really far closer. I can't have that slack. So it's all of it. It's like I don't want to say between gi and no gi, but it's all little pops. So whether it's tanking down or it's like little lift, it's like pop, and then you go for it. Like, but that's the question. Do you really need tons of strength to do that, or you can be highly technical?
No. It's actually, the Inner Mongolian style is a lot more technical than a lot of the other styles because it doesn't use as much strength. Obviously, strength plays a factor. If you're bigger or stronger, it does help. We know that. Let's not, people try to play games with that. But so a lot of the power also comes from the wrist. They pop a lot like this. It's constantly like this. It's small. It's so small. If you watch the videos, you can't tell. I mean, I watched it for years, and I'm just starting to get it after 2 years of training it, right? So it takes a long time to understand, like, damn, you don't really need a lot of strength. It's all these little pops and these little, these little jerks or whatever it may be. So it's super technical, especially with the feet and how you use your feet. A lot of it is like, I don't know if you noticed, but Mongolians are super bow-legged, right? Their legs are like this from riding horses.
Much. I know they have very like strong forearms genetically. Like you see them with
because with the horses. So all of it comes from riding horses. So that's why, like, my teacher, like Huha, and they always say, like, Hangai, they call me Hangai. They're like, you need to ride horses for training, because as a foreigner, we get very tight and we like to use strength, right? But they develop sensitivity through the riding a horse, and also develops those little muscles that you need, that little pop, that little turn, because a lot of them will ride a horse with no saddle, right? And that, they just jump on it. Like, man, the other day I was at my friend's ranch, and he's like, let's jump on the horses, like, without our hands. Like, you just gotta jump on it, right? And that's kind of like the games that they play, right? But it plays a big factor when you come to wrestling, because your stability goes through the roof. Like, your understanding of shifting and knowing where your body's at changes drastically. Or I had a question today, someone, and I'll answer it now because it goes with it. I always say your lower back has to be relaxed with Bokh, right? Your lower back has to be relaxed. Your legs have to be sturdy, but from the knee down, it has to be, I guess you can say, like, agile, limber. You have to be able to move from the knees down. Your waist has to be loose and your back relaxed, right? But yet legs heavy, okay? And, people say, damn, well, how do you protect or support your lower back then, right? But you'll be surprised when you do that, the stuff you can do with your feet. Your reaction will go through the roof. Your sensitivity, your ability to counter. So Inner Mongolian Bokh is mainly about counters, right? It's all about trips and counters. Because when you go against someone that's really big, you can't just kind of throw them. You have to wait until they do something and then you capitalize, right? So it's all about counters. And let's say judo, let's say in terms of manipulation and pulling and stuff like that, judo is like this. You can go long range, right? And you got Sambo as well. Then you got Chinese wrestling. Then you got Inner Mongolian Bokh. And then you got the House Bokh in Outer Mongolia. It's like this. It gets tighter and tighter. Each one is a different game that gets closer with less pull. So you have to have smaller motions and a lot more tricks, right? Because you can't manipulate someone so much. You can't just pull and turn your head all hard. You do that here, like, someone's gonna bust you up. You're gonna get destroyed, right?